Hey guys, tonight we're going to wander into a question that feels both enormous and intimate. A question about the past, about the present, and maybe even about the choices we carry forward. The question is simple. Are we living through the Earth's sixth mass extinction? You may already feel your shoulders tense at that phrase, but don't worry, this is not a lecture of doom. It is a story, a quiet walk through time, told slowly so you can fall asleep with the rhythms of the planet carrying you along. Picture yourself standing on the edge of a great forest at dusk. Fireflies glimmer between the trees, the air is heavy with the scent of soil and pine. Somewhere, deep in the canopy, a bird calls once and then falls silent. This silence is what tonight is about, the spaces where life fades, and the ways the earth fills them again. You probably won't survive this extinction personally, don't worry, none of us will. The timeline of species and climates is far bigger than our brief stretch of years. But the point of the story is not fear. It is wonder. Wonder at how fragile and how resilient life can be. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're here, comment below with your location and the time where you're listening. I love watching that quiet map light up across the world. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The sixth extinction. Even the phrase feels like a warning siren. And yet, if you listen carefully, it's not the blare of a trumpet, but the whisper of countless small voices, species fading one by one, frogs in rainforests that once sang all night, now gone, coral reefs that once blazed with colour, now pale and brittle. The Earth has endured 5 such events before, each one a collapse of unimaginable scale. Volcanoes tore open the Permian skies. Asteroids slammed into Cretaceous seas. Ice gripped the Ordovician and locked whole oceans under sheets of white. And yet, after each silence, life found its way back. That is the story we carry into tonight, not just of endings, but of returns. Because if we truly are in the midst of the sixth extinction, then we're also in the midst of another truth. Life has not stopped yet. Take a breath. The air in your lungs carries oxygen that may have been shaped by forests hundreds of miles away, by oceans thousands of miles away. You're not apart from this extinction. You are inside it. Imagine time stretched like a ribbon. Along its length are bright, crowded sections, times when life burst into abundance. And then there are dim sections where the line narrows, where many voices vanish, and only a few thread onward. Right now, some scientists believe we're stepping into another dim section. And yet, this is not the end of the ribbon. It stretches onward, through us, past us, beyond us. To understand what it means to live in such a moment, you need to imagine both scale and detail. Scale, because mass extinctions stretch across millions of years. Detail, because each loss is a single creature, a single lineage, a single voice silenced. Think of a bee vanishing from a meadow. One insect small, almost invisible. But with fewer bees, fewer flowers are pollinated. With fewer flowers, less fruit grows. With less fruit, animals go hungry. Every small absence ripples outward. The earth works in webs, not in lines. That is why extinctions are so powerful. Pull enough threads, and the whole cloth frays. Scientists estimate that today species are disappearing at rates 100 to 1,000 times faster than the background pace of Earth's history. That is staggering. But it is also abstract. So imagine it instead like this. Every hour you spend listening, some species you have never known quietly fades away. And yet, because there is always an and yet, life is stubborn. It seeks cracks, refuges, pockets where it can wait out the storm. Remember those trilobites that vanished at the end of the Permian? Their cousins carried on in other forms, eventually giving rise to creatures that still scuttle across the ocean floor. Remember the dinosaurs? Their wings still beat in every sparrow, every gull, every owl that calls through the night. So if this is the sixth extinction, what survives will not be what we expect. Perhaps it will be species we barely notice now. Fungi weaving threads through soil, plankton drifting invisibly in the seas, tiny mammals hidden in the roots of trees. Life will not vanish entirely. It never has. You might ask, If extinctions are natural, why should this one be different? And the answer is simple, because this one is not caused by asteroids or volcanoes or ice. It is caused by us, by the smoke of engines, the clearing of forests, the warming of seas, by billions of small choices that together shape a planetary force. This is what makes the sixth extinction unique. For the first time, the Earth's great unravelling is being authored by a species that can see it, name it, and perhaps change it. That is terrifying. But it is also extraordinary. Imagine sitting at a typewriter with a story already half written. The chapters before are inked in stone. 5 great collapses, 5 great recoveries. The chapter now is still being typed line by line. Your breath, your choices, are part of the ink. As you drift deeper into this story tonight, let yourself feel the balance, the weight of silence spreading, but also the persistence of life humming underneath. This is not just a tale of endings. It is a reminder that you are alive in a moment that matters, a page in the book that is still being written. Take another breath. Feel your chest rise and fall. That rhythm, steady and patient, is the same rhythm that carries the oceans, the forests, the tides of time. And now, we will walk further into the story, from the silence of the past to the fragile abundance of the present. You begin to walk the trail of history, tracing the footsteps of life across billions of years. At first, the story seems steady, cells growing, multiplying, weaving into more complex forms. Oceans filling with strange creatures, forests spreading green across continents, animals lifting themselves from the sea to the land. It feels like a climb, a steady upward line of progress. But then you see the breaks. The sudden drops where life faltered. These are the 5 mass extinctions that came before. They are the scars in Earth's memory, each one reshaping the balance of who lived and who vanished. The first came at the end of the Ordovician, about 443 million years ago. Ice sheets spread across the southern hemisphere, drawing water from the seas. Shallow oceans where corals and trilobites thrived dried up, leaving barren rock. Nearly 85% of marine species disappeared. Imagine wandering those empty seabeds, shells scattered like whispers of a vanished world. Then, about 372 million years ago, the Devonian extinction struck. Coral reefs collapsed, fish diversity shrank, and life on land struggled to find its footing. Scientists still debate why, perhaps cooling climates, perhaps oxygen-starved waters caused by spreading plants. Whatever the reason, the oceans that had once been full of armoured fish grew quiet. And then came the great one, the Permian extinction, about 252 million years ago. The Great Dying. More than 90% of all marine species, and around 70% of land species, were wiped away. The land turned desert, the oceans suffocated, skies filled with volcanic gases. Imagine walking through a forest where every tree is withered, every creature vanished, and the silence presses against your ears like weight. Life recovered, as it always does. Dinosaurs rose, forests spread again, oceans refilled with life. But the pattern repeated. The Triassic extinction thinned the ranks once more, making way for the true reign of dinosaurs. Then, 66 million years ago, the Cretaceous ended suddenly when a 10-kilometre asteroid slammed into the Earth, leaving behind the Chicxulub crater and wiping out the great reptiles of land, sea and sky. Each time the Earth fell into silence. Each time the silence was temporary. The survivors rebuilt, evolved, spread. But the scars remain in stone, in fossils, in the thin lines of ash and clay that mark the edges of eras. As you listen tonight, consider how strange it is that we even know these stories. That by reading rocks, by studying bones, we can reconstruct oceans that dried, forests that burned, skies that darkened before humans ever existed. It means we have a window not just into life, but into death, and into how the Earth responds. You walk along this gallery of losses, pausing at each doorway of time. Some rooms echo with the crash of falling forests. Others are hushed with the absence of entire oceans. Each extinction is a reminder that life is both resilient and fragile, strong enough to recover, yet delicate enough to vanish quickly under pressure. Scientists use a phrase for this: the background rate of extinction. It is the natural pace at which species come and go over millions of years. Even without asteroids or volcanoes, species disappear as environments shift, as ecosystems change. Usually this rate is slow, a quiet rhythm of endings balanced by beginnings. But in each mass extinction, that quiet rhythm turned into a crash. Whole branches of the tree of life snapped away in a geological instant. Imagine a forest where not just a few leaves fall in autumn, but entire trunks topple, roots ripped from the soil, the canopy collapsing all at once. That is the scale of these events. Now, as you stand at the threshold of our present age, the question forms: are we in the middle of another collapse? Are the empty spaces we see in forests, reefs and skies today the first notes of a sixth extinction? Consider this. The last mass extinction was caused by a rock from space 10 kilometers wide. The one before that by volcanoes so vast they reshaped the air and sea. But this time, the driver is us. Not asteroids, not eruptions, people. Our cities, our farms, our industries, our choices. And here lies the most unsettling twist. We are both the cause and the witnesses. The asteroid never paused to wonder what it had done. The volcano never stopped to grieve the forests it smothered. But humans can. We can recognize the silent spreading. We can measure it, feel it, even name it, the sixth extinction. And that awareness carries something new into the story. It means that while extinctions have always been inevitable in Earth's deep past, this one is not. At least, not entirely. Because unlike volcanoes or asteroids, we can choose. So as you drift in thought, let this question linger with you. If life on Earth has endured 5 extinctions already, what will it look like after the 6th? And more importantly, what part will we play in that recovery, or in that loss? You open your eyes inside the present world, not the fossil halls of memory. The forests are green, the oceans wide, the skies filled with wings. On the surface it feels abundant, alive, eternal. But if you listen closer, you can hear the absences. The songs that are fading, the silences that are growing. Today scientists estimate species are disappearing hundreds, maybe thousands of times faster than the background rate. Entire families of animals and plants shrink into smaller ranges, fewer numbers, quieter presences. Amphibians are among the most vulnerable. Frogs and salamanders that once filled forests and ponds with life are vanishing. Their skins, sensitive as paper, absorb the toxins we pour into water. Their songs vanish first, their bodies later. In the oceans, coral reefs, the rainforests of the sea, are bleaching. Warming waters drive out the tiny algae that give them colour and life. A reef that once shimmered with fish and coral now looks ghostly, skeletal, like ruins beneath the waves. Scientists warn that half of all reefs could vanish within decades. Imagine snorkeling over what should be a city of colour, and finding only rubble. Birds too are slipping away. Migratory species that once painted the sky in ribbons now arrive in smaller numbers each season. Some can't find the wetlands that used to rest them on their journeys, drained and paved over. Others cannot match their migrations with the shifting seasons of food. A world without birdsong is hard to imagine, and yet the silence grows. You might ask, why does this matter? Why mourn a frog in a faraway rainforest or a reef in distant seas? But ecosystems are woven like fabric. Tug on one thread, and the pattern shifts. Pull too many threads, and the fabric unravels. Think of bees, small as a thumbnail yet carrying the weight of entire harvests. As pollinators decline, so too does the abundance of fruit and seed. Without them, fields would be quiet, orchards barren, and tables far poorer. A single hum, multiplied millions of times, sustains the world. When the hum fades, everything feels the loss. The causes of these vanishings are many, but they echo human hands. Deforestation tears apart habitats. Pollution clouds rivers and skies. Overfishing strips oceans of their balance. And climate change shifts the rules of life itself. Seasons arriving earlier, storms growing fiercer, heat rising beyond tolerance. Quirky tidbit, scientists even track extinction through sound. In some places, microphones in forest record fewer calls each year, like a slowly vanishing orchestra. Imagine listening to a rainforest that once roared with sound, now playing only a sparse and hesitant melody. So here is the open question. Are we already inside the sixth extinction, or standing at its threshold? Some argue it has begun, visible in the statistics of species loss. Others suggest it is still preventable, that we are in the early tremors, not yet the collapse. What is clear is that we are not passive observers. We are participants, both in the decline and potentially in the recovery. The Earth has survived 5 great extinctions, each driven by forces beyond any creature's control. But this one, if it unfolds, is written by human choices. You breathe slowly now, holding the weight of that thought. The forests, the seas, the skies, all whispering at once, asking whether their voices will continue or whether silence will spread further still. Close your eyes and imagine the forests of the world. Once they stretched in endless canopies across continents, green seas rolling over hills and valleys. In the Amazon, in Congo, in Borneo, they still breathe, but thinner now, patchworked with scars of logging and fire. These forests are not only homes to countless species, they are the lungs of the earth. With every leaf, oxygen is released, carbon is captured, balance is kept. When trees fall too quickly, the rhythm falters. Soil erodes, rivers choke with silt, animals scatter. And as the canopy thins, the climate shifts, the heat intensifies, the rains stumble in their cycle. Scientists estimate that around a football field of rainforest is lost every few seconds. Pause with that number. Imagine the sound of chainsaws repeating endlessly across the globe. Quirky tidbit. Some trees even communicate underground through fungal networks, sending signals, sharing nutrients, whispering survival tips across roots. When we cut forests, we don't just silence the trees above, we cut the threads of a hidden internet below. And so, an open question lingers. If forests vanish, how much can Earth's balance endure before it tips into chaos? No one knows the exact point, the line we dare not cross. The story of extinction here is not abstract. It is measured in jaguars losing their hunting grounds, in orangutans searching through plantations where forests once stood, in birds flying longer distances only to find fewer trees to land upon. The silence spreads leaf by leaf. You might picture the forest from above, a satellite view, green stitched with widening seams of brown. Each road cut through trees opens the door to more cutting, more burning, more silence. And yet, forests are resilient when given space. In abandoned fields, saplings rise. Birds return, carrying seeds in their beaks. Insects hum again, building the foundation of renewal. Even a forest thought lost can, in time, breathe once more. The question is whether humanity will give it that chance. Scientists debate whether the Amazon, the largest rainforest on Earth, is nearing a tipping point. Too much deforestation, too many fires, too much heat, and the system could shift. From a rainforest, rich with rain and life, into a savanna, drier, thinner, unable to hold its abundance. If that happens, the carbon released could accelerate climate change beyond prediction. Remember those fungal networks beneath the soil? They don't just connect trees, they stabilize whole ecosystems. Without them, water doesn't flow the same, nutrients don't circulate as before. Even creatures we never see, tiny beetles, burrowing worms, leafcutter ants, are part of that hidden architecture. Their disappearance echoes upward until jaguars and eagles feel the loss. So you wander deeper into the forest of thought. You hear the soft drip of water from leaves, the call of distant birds, the rustle of unseen creatures. You know this balance is fragile, but you also feel its persistence. Life is stubborn, forests patient, but patience has limits. And you are left with a question. Will the sixth extinction be marked by the fall of forests or by their renewal? The answer, quietly, rests with us. Shift your gaze now from forests to the oceans. For 4 billion years they have been the cradle of life. From the first cells to trilobites to fish to whales, the seas have always carried the rhythm of survival. But today, the oceans are changing faster than many creatures can adapt. The seas absorb about a quarter of the carbon dioxide humanity releases into the air. On the surface, this might sound helpful, like the ocean is protecting us from our own emissions. But there's a catch. That carbon dissolves into the water, making it more acidic. Coral reefs, those bright, bustling underwater cities, are especially vulnerable. The acid weakens their skeletons and rising temperatures bleach them white. Without reefs, countless species lose their homes. Fish, sponges, mollusks, even the turtles and sharks that depend on reef ecosystems. It's not just beauty at risk, it's food security for hundreds of millions of people who rely on fish from these waters. Imagine diving into a reef 40 years ago. You'd see explosions of colour, parrotfish nibbling at coral, schools of silverfish shimmering in perfect synchrony, sea fans waving like underwater forests. Now, in many places, you'd find bleached rubble, a ghost of what once was, fish scattered or gone. And it's not only the reefs. Overfishing has thinned populations of tuna, cod, and countless other species. Nets sweep whole schools in minutes, removing what once took nature centuries to build. Industrial fishing fleets cast lines that stretch for miles, their hooks baited by the thousands. It is efficient, but it is also devastating. The quirky truth: jellyfish, those gelatinous drifters often overlooked, are thriving in depleted seas. With fewer fish to compete with, and warmer, oxygen-poorer waters they can tolerate, they bloom in vast, pulsating swarms. Some scientists even call this the rise of the jellyfish oceans. A strange twist in the balance of life. Drift deeper with me, into the twilight zone of the sea. Here, sunlight fades, but life still thrives in curious forms. Lanternfish with glowing bellies rise each night in the largest migration on Earth, travelling from depths to surface to feed. Yet even they are caught in growing numbers, hauled up for livestock feed and supplements. Imagine tiny fish fueling massive systems, taken faster than they can return. Further still, in the black abyss, creatures survive on scraps drifting down, or by strange chemistries around deep-sea vents. You might think these remote worlds would be safe from human reach. But even here, plastics have been found, drifting into the stomachs of amphipods in the Mariana Trench 7 miles down. Microplastics rain into the deepest canyons of the ocean, tiny and invisible, yet nearly impossible to remove. Scientists estimate that more than 8 million tons of plastic enter the seas each year. Imagine dumping a garbage truck full of waste into the ocean every single minute. That is the pace we live at now. Turtles mistake plastic bags for jellyfish. Seabirds feed bottle caps to their chicks. Whales wash ashore with stomachs full of plastic, starved despite being full. The oceans are also warming. Warmer waters expand, raising sea levels, flooding coasts. Currents shift, storms intensify. For creatures that depend on precise temperatures, like coral larvae searching for a reef, or plankton that bloom with seasons, even small changes can unravel life cycles. And so, the oceans tell a story of vast resilience, for they have carried life for billions of years, but also a story of fragility when changes come too quickly. Scientists still debate how much more the seas can take. Will reefs recover if temperatures stabilize? Can overfished species rebound if given a pause? Or have some tipping points already passed, their balance gone forever? As you float in this thought, remember, oceans cover 70% of the Earth. They are not just water. They are memory, history, future. And in their shifting tides, the sixth extinction writes itself in salt and silence. Step now from the sea onto the land. Imagine standing at the edge of a forest, morning mist drifting between trees, birdsong weaving through the air. For millions of years, forests have been the lungs of the planet, pulling carbon dioxide from the air and releasing oxygen into every breath you take. They are also sanctuaries for life. From the canopy, where monkeys leap between branches, to the soil where fungi knit roots together, forests are vast communities. But these lungs are shrinking. Chainsaws echo where birds once sang. Forests are cleared for crops, for cattle, for timber, for roads. Each year we lose an area of tropical rainforest the size of a country. Imagine a forest vanishing every few seconds, replaced by silence and smoke. Deforestation is not just about trees. When forests fall, species fall with them. Jaguars lose their hunting grounds. Orangutans are left wandering in fragments of forest, cut off from food and mates. Birds that migrate thousands of miles return to find their nesting places gone. Even insects vanish, though you might not notice, until crops fail without pollinators, until the soil thins without decomposers. And forests are also archives of climate. Their soils store carbon for centuries. When trees are burned, that carbon floods back into the atmosphere, warming the planet further. It is a double blow: fewer trees to absorb carbon, more gases heating the sky. Pause here. Think of a single tree. Its roots gripping the soil, its branches holding up birds' nests, its leaves breathing with the wind. Now multiply that tree by billions. That is what forests do. Build whole worlds from countless quiet lives. Forests are not only homes for species. They are also buffers, regulating the flow of water, stabilizing soils, softening the harshness of storms. When they vanish, floods strike harder, droughts bite deeper, landslides sweep away whole valleys. The loss echoes beyond the forest itself, touching cities, farms and villages far away. And yet, resilience still lingers. Studies show that forests can regrow if they are left in peace. Within decades, saplings can rise into young canopies, animals can return, and birdsong can echo once more. But recovery is not guaranteed. Some species vanish forever, their roles empty. Ecosystems cannot simply rewind. They adapt, but they adapt into something new. Here lies one of the central debates of our time. Will humans allow forests to recover, or will we cut until nothing remains? Scientists warn that losing too much forest could tip the balance, pushing Earth's climate into instability we cannot reverse. The Amazon, often called the lungs of the world, may already be nearing such a tipping point. Imagine an entire rainforest shifting into dry savanna, species gone, rivers shrinking, rainfall patterns across continents disrupted. It is a sobering thought. Yet it is also a reminder that choices matter. Protecting a forest is not just about trees. It is about safeguarding rain, air, and balance for generations to come. So as you walk through this imagined forest in your mind, hear the leaves rustle. Hear the call of a bird hidden in the canopy. Know that every sound is part of a fragile chorus, one that depends on care to keep singing. Forests remind us that extinction is not always sudden. Sometimes it is the slow silencing of voices, the quiet fading of shade. And with that we step onward, carrying the weight of green into the story of Earth's unfolding extinction. Now shift your gaze from the forest to the oceans. For 4 billion years the seas have been Earth's cradle of life. They gave birth to the first cells, nurtured trilobites, and sheltered dinosaurs' marine cousins. Even today the oceans cover more than 70% of the planet. They are vast yet fragile. Imagine floating over a coral reef. The water glimmers with colour, fish dart like sparks, corals build intricate castles from calcium carbonate. These reefs are among the most diverse ecosystems on Earth, supporting 1/4 of all marine life. But as seas warm and acidify, corals begin to bleach. Their vibrant colours fade into ghostly white. If the stress continues, they die, leaving only skeletons. This bleaching is not isolated. It has struck reefs across the globe, from Australia's Great Barrier Reef to the Caribbean. In some places, more than half of corals have vanished in just a few decades. Without reefs, fish lose shelter, food webs collapse, coastlines lose protection from storms. And then there is overfishing. Humans have harvested the seas for thousands of years, but in the last century technology has allowed us to pull more than the oceans can replace. Great schools of cod in the North Atlantic have been reduced to fragments of their former size. Tuna, sharks, and other large predators have declined by 90% in some regions. Imagine a sea without its great hunters, without the balance they once maintained. The oceans, once infinite in our imagination, are showing limits. Plastic drifts in gyres, microfibers sink into sediments, oil spills stain coasts. Even the deepest trenches are not untouched by human fingerprints. Still, within this sobering picture, the oceans whisper resilience. Some corals show surprising tolerance to warmer waters, adapting in places where others fail. Marine reserves, when enforced, allow fish populations to rebound, sometimes in just a few years. Even whales, once driven nearly to extinction by hunting, have begun to recover as protections were put in place. The ocean story is not only one of decline, but also of possibility. Think of phytoplankton, those tiny drifting plants at the base of the marine food chain. They produce more than half of the oxygen you breathe. Every second breath you take is a gift from the sea. Yet their populations shift with currents, temperatures, and chemistry. If they were to falter, the effects would ripple not only through oceans, but through the air itself. And here lies a curious question. Scientists debate whether ocean ecosystems can adapt quickly enough to the pace of change humans have created. In past extinctions, recovery took millions of years. Will we see resilience within our lifetimes, or will the seas enter a long silence before they sing again? Picture yourself now drifting above a twilight reef. Some corals glow faintly in bioluminescent hues, while fish weave carefully through fractured landscapes. It is fragile, yes, but still alive. The ocean, like the Earth itself, endures in ways both surprising and stubborn. So as you breathe, remember, the oceans breathe with you. They carry the memory of ancient trilobites, the thunder of whales, the fragile shimmer of reefs. They are not lost yet. From the oceans, let us turn our gaze to the forests. For hundreds of millions of years, trees have shaped the very air you breathe. Their leaves capture sunlight, their roots stitch soil together, their bodies store carbon and release oxygen. Forests are the lungs of the planet, vast green cathedrals humming with hidden life. Imagine yourself walking barefoot through an ancient rainforest. The canopy towers above like a roof of emerald, while shafts of golden light pierce through leaves dappling the ground. Insects buzz, birds call, and unseen mammals rustle in the undergrowth. Each step you take crushes leaves into the soil, releasing the scent of earth and rain. Here, every inch is alive. Yet forests too are unravelling. Chainsaws echo where birdsong once reigned. Fires sweep through dry underbrush, flames devouring not just trees but the countless species that depend on them. Rainforests in the Amazon, Congo, and Southeast Asia are shrinking year by year, cut into fragments that struggle to sustain balance. Forests do more than house animals. They regulate climate, cycle water, and cool the Earth's surface. Strip them away, and rivers dry, soils erode, temperatures climb. It is like pulling threads from a web, each one weakens the whole. And yet, forests can heal. In abandoned farmlands, green shoots push through cracks, saplings reclaim space, and within decades life knits itself back into a forest. The Earth remembers how to grow. The question is whether we will give it the chance. Picture now the animals of the forest. Orangutans swinging through tangled vines, their long arms carrying them across treetops. Jaguars prowling silently along shadowed paths. Parrots flashing bright colours through the canopy, their cries sharp as flutes. Each one depends on the trees, not just for food, but for safety, shelter, and the rhythms of life. As forests shrink, their inhabitants vanish. Some lose their nesting grounds, others their hunting ranges, and some cannot cross the barren fields that divide one patch of trees from another. It is as if the forest itself is breaking into islands, each too small to hold the vastness of life it once sustained. And still, there are stories of resilience. Elephants forging new paths through regenerating woodlands. Wolves reintroduced into parks, reshaping rivers simply by changing the behaviour of deer. Forests, when allowed to rest, often surprise us with their speed of recovery. But recovery is not guaranteed. Scientists warn that if deforestation continues unchecked, many rainforests could reach a tipping point. Beyond it, even with protection, they may not bounce back. The balance of rainfall and heat, soil and roots may simply unravel. So you're left with a quiet question. Will the future remember the forests of today as vibrant, teeming, full of life? Or will they be remembered only as shadows reduced to fragments, their voices lost? In the stillness of night, you can almost hear them breathing, the great trees, the hidden animals, the endless hum of life. A reminder that the forest is not separate from you. Each breath you take carries its gift. And with each choice humanity makes, we decide whether those gifts continue. Now, let your thoughts drift toward the oceans. For billions of years, they have been the cradle of life, covering most of the planet, shaping climate, and carrying countless creatures within their waves. Yet even here, in the vast blue expanse, silence is spreading. Imagine coral reefs first. Once they shone with colour, parrotfish nibbling at limestone, clownfish darting through anemones, sea turtles gliding above. Each reef was a city, alive with movement, a bustling neighbourhood underwater. But warming seas now push corals to bleach, turning their colours pale as bone. Without their algae partners, corals starve, and the whole city crumbles. Fishermen in some regions say the schools of fish that once swarmed like silver clouds are gone. Nets return light. Waters feel emptier. It is not just overfishing, but acidifying seas, rising from the carbon dioxide absorbed into the waves. Shells thin, larvae fail to grow, and plankton, the very foundation of ocean life, begin to falter. And yet the oceans remain immense, mysterious, still holding depths we barely understand. Scientists remind us that we have explored more of the surface of Mars than the deep sea. What wonders still hide there? What creatures endure in darkness beyond our reach, waiting unseen? The fragility of the oceans mirrors the forests. Lose too much, and the balance tips. The seas regulate the planet's climate, generate most of the oxygen you breathe, and feed billions of people. If they weaken, the whole Earth feels it. Close your eyes and imagine drifting with a whale. Its body is immense, a moving mountain of flesh and grace. Once, oceans sang with whales, blue whales, humpbacks, orcas, calling across thousands of miles. Today those songs still echo, but they are thinner, competing with the rumble of ships, the drills of industry, the static of human presence. Sharks, too. The ancient guardians of the seas have been cut down in staggering numbers. For hundreds of millions of years they balanced the oceans, keeping prey populations in check, shaping ecosystems with each hunt. Now, many are gone, harvested for fins, lost to bycatch, or diminished by poisoned waters. A sea without sharks is a sea less stable, less alive. Picture a turtle surfacing for air, its shell scarred by fishing nets, its beach eroded by rising seas. These ancient navigators who once swam with dinosaurs are dwindling too. Yet each survivor carries a story stretching back more than 100 million years. And still, amid the decline, resilience stirs. Marine sanctuaries have shown that life can rebound if given space. Coral fragments replanted by divers spread slowly into new colonies. Whales, once hunted to near extinction, are returning in some seas, their songs louder than before. The oceans are wounded but not defeated. Their patience is measured in eons, their resilience carved into every tide. The question is whether humanity will step back in time, granting them the silence and the space they need. Remember this when you breathe. Every lungful of air you take carries oxygen shaped by the sea, exhaled by plankton, gifted by the waves. You carry the ocean inside you. Its survival is in truth your own. Imagine stepping away from the seas and into the forests. These are the lungs of the earth, vast green cathedrals that breathe with you. Each tree a column, each canopy a roof, each bird call a hymn in the quiet of the leaves. But listen closer. The songs are fewer. In some forests, silence spreads where choruses once rose at dawn. Birds vanish as habitats shrink. Insects that pollinate the blossoms diminish, and the intricate balance of the forest begins to fray. The Amazon rainforest, often called the planet's lungs, has lost vast stretches to fire and chainsaws. Its edges recede mile by mile, each acre cleared releasing stored carbon into the sky. Imagine walking through a patch once alive with orchids and toucans, now a field of ash and stumps. Forests are not only homes for animals, they are architects of climate. They draw carbon from the air, they hold soils in place, they summon rain through the transpiration of leaves. Without them, droughts spread, rivers shrink and climates spiral. And yet, forests can return. In some countries, abandoned farmland has rewilded into young forests. Wolves reintroduced to Yellowstone reshaped even the rivers by restoring balance to grazing herds. a reminder that when nature is allowed to breathe, it remembers its song. Still, the sixth extinction lingers here. Orangutans cling to fragments of Borneo's forest, each tree they lose pushing them closer to disappearance. Tigers, once rulers of vast territories, pace in dwindling jungles. And countless smaller species, beetles, frogs, orchids, vanish unnoticed, their stories ending without witness. Think for a moment about the hidden networks beneath your feet in a forest. Mycorrhizal fungi connect tree roots in vast webs, sharing nutrients, even passing signals of stress. A tree under attack by insects can release chemical warnings that ripple through this underground internet, prompting its neighbours to prepare defences. This is intelligence woven not into a brain, but into soil itself. When a forest falls, this network is severed. It is not just the loss of trunks and leaves, but the unravelling of a hidden conversation billions of years in the making. The silence becomes deeper than sound. It is the silence of lost connection. And yet, humans have also begun to stitch. Reforestation projects in places like Costa Rica have shown how quickly nature rebounds when given the chance. Within a generation, bare pastures can become tangled green again, streams shaded, birds returning to sing at dawn. Scientists call this resilience, but you might simply call it hope. So ask yourself this: when future generations walk these forests, will they step into silence or song? Will their children see the flicker of fireflies in the twilight, or only read of them in books? The sixth extinction is being written now, not in stone, but in choices, each tree felled or spared, each acre burned or replanted. Remember, the earth has always known endings, but it has also always known beginnings. The forest, patient as ever, waits for our decision. Picture drifting deeper, where light fades and the world becomes twilight blue. Here, life once thrived in abundance, shoals of fish moving like silver rivers, predators gliding in patient arcs, great whales rising and falling like shadows in the dark. But listen closely. The schools are thinning. Nets sweep the oceans with a hunger larger than any predator nature ever made. Overfishing is not new, but today it has reached a scale that bends ecosystems. Tuna, cod, swordfish, creatures that once roamed in millions, are now fragments of their former selves. Entire populations crash when we take faster than life can replenish. Scientists warn that if trends continue, the oceans may become emptied not by nature but by human appetite. And then there is plastic. Floating islands of trash drift between continents, carried by currents into gyres where fragments whirl endlessly. Some pieces are large enough to see. Others are microscopic, eaten by plankton, then by fish, then by us. The oceans have become a mirror reflecting back what we throw away. Still, resilience whispers here too. Marine reserves, when protected, show astonishing rebounds. Fish return, corals regrow, ecosystems stitch themselves together with surprising speed. It is as if the ocean is saying, "Give me space, and I will heal." So the question lingers: will we give it that space? Or will the silence grow deeper until the whale songs fade into memory? Imagine standing at the edge of a rainforest. The air is warm and damp, thick with the perfume of leaves and soil, heavy with the calls of unseen birds and insects. This is one of Earth's richest tapestries of life. Every tree holds hundreds of species, from tiny ants to climbing orchids, from sloths that dangle lazily to jaguars that prowl in shadows. And yet, the forest is shrinking. Chainsaws and fires carve through it, clearing space for fields, for cattle, for crops that feed faraway cities. Each acre lost is more than just trees. It is a library of species erased before we even knew their names. Scientists estimate that more than half of Earth's terrestrial species live in rainforests. When the canopy falls, their world collapses. The Amazon, often called the lungs of the Earth, breathes in carbon dioxide and exhales oxygen, balancing the planet's air. But its balance is tipping. Fires, sometimes natural, often man-made, burn vast stretches. Smoke rises into the sky, turning day into a strange dusk. The forest, once a shield against climate change, begins to release carbon instead of storing it. And it is not only the Amazon. Forests in Africa, Asia, and the Pacific are being cut at relentless speed. Orangutans lose their canopies. Elephants find their paths broken. Even insects, the silent architects of pollination and decomposition, disappear as their homes vanish. Yet here too resilience flickers. Some nations protect reserves. Communities plant trees, rebuild forests, reconnect fragments of land so that wildlife can move and thrive. The earth has shown again and again that given time, green will return. The question is whether we give it enough time. Imagine standing at the edge of a rainforest. The air is warm and damp, thick with the perfume of leaves and soil, heavy with the calls of unseen birds and insects. This is one of Earth's richest tapestries of life. Every tree holds hundreds of species, from tiny ants to climbing orchids, from sloths that dangle lazily to jaguars that prowl in shadows. And yet the forest is shrinking. Chainsaws and fires carve through it, clearing space for fields, for cattle, for crops that feed faraway cities. Each acre lost is more than just trees. It is a library of species erased before we even knew their names. Scientists estimate that more than half of Earth's terrestrial species live in rainforests. When the canopy falls, their world collapses. The Amazon, often called the lungs of the Earth, breathes in carbon dioxide and exhales oxygen, balancing the planet's air. But its balance is tipping. Fires, sometimes natural, often man-made, burn vast stretches. Smoke rises into the sky, turning day into a strange dusk. The forest, once a shield against climate change, begins to release carbon instead of storing it. And it is not only the Amazon. Forests in Africa, Asia and the Pacific are being cut at relentless speed. Orangutans lose their canopies. Elephants find their paths broken. Even insects, the silent architects of pollination and decomposition, disappear as their homes vanish. Yet here too resilience flickers. Some nations protect reserves. Communities plant trees, rebuild forests, reconnect fragments of land so that wildlife can move and thrive. The earth has shown again and again that given time, green will return. The question is whether we give it enough time. From the dense walls of rainforest, imagine stepping into a savanna. The horizon stretches wide, painted with tall grasses that sway like an ocean of gold. Herds of wildebeest migrate in endless lines. Zebras graze beside them, their stripes blending into shimmering heat. Elephants move slowly, with patience carved into every step, their trunks brushing the ground like searching fingers. These grasslands are among Earth's oldest ecosystems, shaping not only wildlife but also human history. Early humans hunted here, followed herds, built their first camps beneath the acacia trees. And yet today, the savannas face pressures almost as great as the forests. Poaching leaves scars. Elephants killed for ivory. Rhinos hunted for horns. Lions losing their prey and their territories. Human settlements expand, fences crisscrossing migration routes, rivers diverted to feed cities, and the spaces that once echoed with thundering herds fall silent. And in the oceans, the same story unfolds with different characters. Vast shoals of fish that once shimmered beneath waves are harvested faster than they can recover. Coral reefs bleach white under warming seas, leaving fish homeless, their colours drained away like memories fading. Whales, once hunted almost to extinction, now struggle with plastic drifting in their waters and with ship noise that drowns their ancient songs. Yet resilience persists here too. Conservation groups reintroduce animals to parks. Protected marine zones allow fish stocks to recover. Even the elephants, given corridors to roam and protected spaces, can rebuild their herds. The earth whispers that life wants to endure, but it needs room to breathe. As you drift in thought, notice the pattern. Rainforests, savannas, oceans, each faces silence, yet each holds sparks of renewal. The sixth extinction is not written in fire and ash alone. It is written in choices, whether we cut or protect, whether we consume or conserve, whether we forget or remember. Now imagine shifting your view northward. The rainforests and savannas fade behind you, and the air grows sharper, colder. Ahead stretches a world of ice. Glaciers rise like frozen rivers, their blue cores older than memory. The sea sparkles with drifting icebergs, each one a fragment of an ancient story. This is the polar world, Arctic to the north, Antarctic to the south. These frozen regions are not barren, though they appear stark and still. Life here is adapted to extremes. Polar bears stalk the edges of sea ice, waiting for seals. Penguins gather in noisy colonies, shuffling across frozen plains. Beneath the surface, krill swarm in staggering numbers, feeding whales that migrate thousands of miles. But today, the ice is shrinking. Summer melts stretch longer each year, winter freezes arrive later, and glaciers retreat mile after mile. The poles are warming faster than the rest of the planet, and with them, entire systems unravel. Sea ice is more than frozen water. It is a platform for hunting, a barrier for waves, a mirror reflecting sunlight back into space. When it vanishes, polar bears lose their footing, seas absorb more heat, and storms grow stronger. The meltwater flowing into the oceans pushes sea levels higher, flooding coasts far from the Arctic. Antarctica too is shifting. The great ice sheets holding enough water to drown entire cities crack and crumble into the sea. Scientists watch these fractures with a mix of awe and fear, unsure how quickly the changes might come. And in the midst of it all, creatures struggle. Penguins find fewer fish as warming waters shift currents. Polar bears wander starving, their hunts shortened by shrinking ice. Entire food chains built on the foundation of ice begin to bend. And yet there is a strange beauty in the silence of the poles. Imagine standing on the edge of a glacier, the air so crisp it almost sings in your lungs. The ice beneath your feet holds the memory of snow that fell before humans walked the earth. Layers stacked like pages of a frozen diary waiting to be read. But those pages are melting. Their story, once written in ice, now runs into the sea. And as the oceans swell, coastlines everywhere feel the shift. Villages on small Pacific islands retreat inland. Cities along great rivers, New York, Mumbai, Jakarta, brace against tides that rise higher each year. For the first time in history, millions of people may become climate refugees, not from war but from water. The poles are like the lungs of the planet. When they exhale, the world cools, storms calm, and seas steady. When they weaken, the balance tilts. Permafrost, once locked and frozen, thaws and releases carbon dioxide and methane, ancient gases that fuel warming further. It is a feedback loop, a spiral, a cycle that accelerates itself. Still, survival whispers in small corners. Arctic foxes adapt their hunting. Some penguin colonies move farther south to find new feeding grounds. Even the krill, tiny as they are, drift with shifting currents, searching for colder water. The resilience of life remains, though stretched thin. So you drift here in thought between ice and water, between silence and collapse. And you wonder, what will the Earth look like when the poles are no longer white? Will children one day grow up never knowing the sight of glaciers, never hearing the groan of ancient ice as it shifts and cracks beneath the sun? Or will we, in recognizing the fragility of these places, choose to protect what remains before it fades? The answers are not certain, but the story is not finished. The poles remind us that change, once started, can race ahead, but they also remind us that life clings, that patience and care can slow the tide. From the silence of the poles, let us wander into the lungs of the earth, the forests. Imagine standing beneath the canopy of the Amazon. Sunlight filters down in fragments, shafts of gold through endless green. The air hums with insects, layered with the calls of unseen birds and heavy with the scent of rain-soaked soil. Here, life is not just abundant. It is overwhelming, weaving threads of connection so complex that scientists admit they understand only fragments of the whole. These forests are cradles of diversity. The Amazon alone may hold 1 in 10 of all species on Earth. The Congo, too, stretches vast and ancient, its rivers and trees sheltering gorillas, elephants, countless birds and plants that carry medicines not yet discovered. To walk in such places is to walk in the presence of deep time. These ecosystems have taken millions of years to form, each root and branch balancing upon delicate relationships. And yet, like the ice, the forests are fragile. Each tree cut is more than wood. It is habitat lost, rainfall patterns altered, carbon once stored now drifting skyward. Deforestation does not only shrink the canopy, it tips the balance of the climate itself. In parts of the Amazon, scientists now warn, the forest edges are drying. Rainfall weakens, fires spread, and green turns to savanna. The forest risks crossing a threshold beyond which recovery is no longer certain. Close your eyes and picture it. A parrot's call replaced by silence. A jaguar's paw prints fading from soil that grows too dry. Rivers shrinking under sun. A world that once sang in symphonies reduced to whispers. But there are stories of resistance here too. Indigenous peoples who have lived in balance with these forests for millennia fight to protect them. Conservation groups plant new seedlings, reconnect fragmented habitats, and push for protection of species before they vanish. The forest itself resists too. If left to recover, it grows back with surprising speed, green shoots weaving over clearings, vines reclaiming old logging roads. Life wants to return. Imagine now the scale of what is at stake. When forests fall, they take with them the species bound to their shade. Orchids that grow on a single branch of a single tree. Frogs that breed only in rain-filled leaves. Ants that farm fungi deep beneath the roots. Each is a story of specialization, beautiful, intricate, and vulnerable. Remove the tree and the web unravels. Forests also carry global weight. They are lungs for the planet, inhaling carbon dioxide and exhaling oxygen with every green breath. Without them, the balance tips further toward warming, and the climate spirals into harsher extremes. Some scientists warn that tropical deforestation contributes as much carbon to the atmosphere as all the world's cars, planes, and ships combined. It is not a distant problem. It is one written into the air you breathe. And yet, even in this sobering picture, the possibility of renewal persists. Remember the meadow after fire. Forests too can rise again. Projects across the world show how quickly life returns when given the chance. In Costa Rica, vast stretches once cleared for cattle are now dense with regrown jungle. In Europe, wolves and lynx have returned to forests where they were gone for centuries, reshaping ecosystems in their wake. Even in the Amazon, pockets of land protected by indigenous guardians remain vibrant, living proof that coexistence is possible. So the question lingers: which direction will the story take? Will forests shrink to memory, their songs preserved only in recordings and museums? Or will they stand tall into the next ages, rivers of green threading across continents, homes to species we have not yet named? As you breathe now, remember that the air filling your lungs may once have drifted through the leaves of an Amazon tree, or a pine on a mountain ridge, or a mangrove by the sea. You're bound to these forests. Their resilience is your resilience. Their survival is, in ways both obvious and hidden, your own. You have walked now through the patterns of deep time, from seas of trilobites to forests of dragonflies, from the collapse of reefs to the shadow of asteroids. Each extinction felt like an ending, and yet each opened the door to a new beginning. Tonight the question rests with us. Are we standing at the threshold of another silence? Or can we bend the story toward renewal before the quiet deepens? Scientists warn that species are disappearing at rates hundreds of times faster than natural background levels. Amphibians, often sensitive to the faintest environmental shifts, are vanishing first. Birds, once numbering in billions, are declining in steady waves. Great mammals, elephants, rhinos, tigers, their ranges shrinking to fragments. And beneath the waves, coral reefs bleach, fish schools thin, and whales sing into waters more empty than they once were. But unlike the creatures of past extinctions, we hold awareness. We can measure the loss. We can chart the trends. We can choose differently. That is both the burden and the gift of this moment. And there are sparks of hope. Remember how whales once hovered on the edge of disappearance? Hunting had driven them near extinction, yet with protection, their numbers began to rise. Remember how bald eagles, once poisoned by pesticides, returned to the skies after action was taken. Life, when given the chance, surges back. The earth leans toward resilience. So the sixth extinction is not a prophecy carved in stone. It is a possibility, yes, but it is also a call, a reminder that endings and beginnings are braided together and that awareness is the thread we hold. As you lie here, think of the long rhythm of Earth's story. For billions of years, life has bent, broken, and risen again. You are part of that rhythm now, not separate from it. The oxygen in your breath was exhaled by ancient forests. The calcium in your bones once drifted in ancient seas. The atoms in your blood were forged in stars. You carry the memory of survival in your very being. So the sixth extinction, if it comes, is not only about the loss of others. It is about us too, about whether we recognize that our story is braided into the same web of forests, oceans and skies, about whether we choose to pull at those threads until they unravel, or weave them stronger with care. Imagine for a moment a future where we succeed, where forests regrow, where rivers run clear, where coral reefs glow once more with colour and life, where children hear the calls of birds at dawn and whales still sing in deep oceans. That is not a dream beyond reach. It is a possibility resting in our hands, in our choices, in the collective breath of humanity. The sixth extinction may be a warning, but it may also be a turning point. And as with every extinction before, the earth will endure. The only question is whether we endure with it. So breathe slowly now. Let the thought settle. Endings are never just endings. They are thresholds. The story of life continues, and tonight you are part of its unfolding. Rest in that truth and drift into sleep carried by the quiet resilience of the earth itself.